welcome to another in the series of the Winning Mindset videos, which is not the Jester, shall we say. I've got here, as you can see on the screen in front of you, the report from Simon Fanshawe and Matilda. Here we go, at the bottom, get the names right. Matilda Gosling, Simon Fanshawe, OBE, and Matilda Gosling. Thank you very much for the report, both of you. Called Flying Flags and Ticking Boxes: What Went Wrong with EDI and How Leaders Can Fix It. Now, this is in a PDF. It's available on their website. I've got the links to that below so that you can access it yourselves. However, it is worthwhile you knowing it's 67 pages long, including the acknowledgement. And you know as well as I do, there are not many people who are going to sit down and read 67 pages. Although those that are working within the field of equality, diversity, and inclusion will, of course, do so. So it behoved me to have a look, which I've done. But I thought I would take a much sort of an overview look at things like the executive summary so that I can give you a brief idea and hopefully tantalize you into reading the whole report. So let's crack on and let's take a look at the executive summary here. It says here, this is a summary of diversity by design research on equality, diversity, and inclusion. Interesting that you've called it equality, diversity, and inclusion, folks, because most people don't think it's equality. They think it's equity, and that's one of the problems you've got. This is based on 45 interviews with leaders across public and private sectors. It looks at what is not yet working when it comes to EDI, areas that have potential but that lack consistently effective practice, and the areas that work well, the strengths and opportunities on which leaders can capitalize to build diversity of thought, support their workforces, and drive organizational performance. Well, that's an interesting beginning to the entire thing. Cards on the table, I don't think EDI can be done. I don't think it can be done properly because I don't think it can exist without falling into and sliding into the kind of totalitarian behaviors that we've seen, because the kind of grievance that is behind EDI, which will occur no matter how you apply it, is antithetical to business and to organizational success, as we are beginning to see as more and more organizations like Toyota, various universities are dropping it completely and saying we're having nothing to do with it anymore. This is, to me, is the only answer. I'm sorry to both the authors of this piece, but that is generally where I am right now. And I must say that the report you produced has not changed that position in my mind one iota, I'm afraid. So the key takeaways here from the 45 interviews with leaders. Interestingly enough, it said in the report that leaders felt they couldn't control this in some cases. It's interesting that you ask the people that can't control it, what do you think it is that you need to do? This is a very strange way in my mind of going about it, but I can understand why you did. So the key takeaways were box ticking over real change. EDI efforts often prioritize symbolic actions, leaving real progress behind. I don't know what you mean by real progress. I genuinely don't. In order for you to, right, so from the very outset, EDI, take this particular viewpoint, which I'm giving you. I'm not saying I'm right, by the way. God forbid. I'm saying, let's have a look. This is for your consideration. I work with Margaret and Bill. Bill hates Jewish people and Margaret can't stand Chinese folk. Then there's Judy over there. She thinks fat people should all be shot. Okay. Who'd work for this company? So there's nothing you can do about that. Nothing. All you can do is ensure they don't manifest those awful beliefs in public. That's all you can do. And you do that by saying, if you do that, we'll fire you. That's about all the EDI you need. I then move into a company that's got younger people in it, and these younger people are constantly moaning about social this and social that. So you as a company say you don't get involved in that, and if they start bleating on about it, you fire them. What else do we need to know? That's it. What is it you're trying to fix? That's what I'm asking you. Are you trying to fix racism? If so, where? And if you're trying to fix it, what you're trying to fix it for over and above the Equality Act, which covers everyone in the country as a shield against that type of thing. What are you trying to fix? You see, half the problem with this is I'm not convinced that the problem you think exists. I really am not. Now, that then gets more complicated as we move through the idea and we think about, if you're in a business that's got 20 employees, one that's got 5, one that's got 5,000, one that's got 50,000, or if you're in a university, or if you're in the NHS, or a school, or a college. So this idea of a blanket, almost theological belief system, like EDI, that can be applied to all of these organizations is quite frankly madness. Because the way that you would run a university is not the same way that you'd run the NHS. The NHS, for example, is there to get people well. That's it. Bizarrely, it's the only organisation that should be heading for equity, which is equality of outcome. You all go out better than when you went in, right? That's what it should be doing. Well, how does that compare with a business that's got to sell in order to keep itself alive, where the only thing that matters is profit? That's all that matters, because that profit puts food on the table of the employees. It puts food on the table of those that have got an investment in that organisation. It enables them to grow and employ more people, which creates more employment, which pays more tax, which means that the NHS can do what it does free at the point of encountering it. How does EDI change that? What do you need EDI for? You don't. Do your job. That's it. It is not possible, I'm saying, to introduce EDI without introducing divisive left-wing ideology. It simply isn't able. You're not able to do it. You're not able to do it without introducing divisive ideology such as intersectionality. It's bound to happen. Bound to happen. As sure as night is day. That's what it will do. So that I've got problems with it from the start. EDI efforts often prioritize symbolic actions, leaving real progress behind. All actions of EDI are symbolic. Because no organisation, be it a company, be it the NHS, be it a university, be it a school, should be attempting to psychologically change the beliefs and opinions of the staff who work for it. It is an overreach on an enormous scale. They pay you, you go to work, you do your best, you go home. That's it. They are not there to mould you in their image in regards to how we should be treating others in the workplace, and which would inevitably creep into how should we be treating others in external life. There is no way to introduce this without it becoming authoritarian and totalitarian. There simply is no way to do it, because this kind of ideologically driven idea will inevitably fall to dark triad individuals. It's inevitable. It always happens, because the entire thing is based on the concept of victimhood. Now, what Simon and Matilda have said in this report is you've got to get away from that. You've got to go away from that idea of victimhood. You've got to go away from they're pushing us in the right direction, but what they don't seem to be able to do is unanchor it from the concept of EDI, which is the problem. And I don't know why. I don't, because Simon's no bloody fool, and nor's Matilda. So I don't know why. It certainly isn't. Simon wouldn't do this because I want to stay in business. Simon does this because he gives a damn. It's just that I don't think you can do it using the argot of what I would call the enemy, Simon. I don't think you can do it. We need to go back to the basic, back to brass tacks. Interesting, isn't it? And that's what I got from these key takeaways. God help us when we get to the rest of it, if we ever will, which I don't think we will. Inclusivity without exclusion. EDI must mean inclusion for all, not focusing on select identity characters at the expense of others. No, it mustn't. You can't include everyone. That's nonsense, and you know it. I'm convinced of it. Right, we've got a project coming up. What's it about? Shaving werewolves. Oh, I've got no experience in that field. You can exclude me from that. Anybody else here know what we're doing? Yeah, I've shaved a few. Right, well, come on then, you'll do. Exclusion is a business necessity. It's a business necessity. Right? In universities, which is a filtration system for idiots, it is a necessity to exclude, and to do so vehemently in order to make sure that the product, the student, is fit for purpose for our country and for the world, for that matter. That's what it's for. The NHS, run by public money, bloated bureaucracy that it is, we should exclude anything that isn't about end care. Anything that's about diversity and that goes. All of it needs to go. It's a boondoggle, and it's costing us a fortune. We don't need it. How come it is that some of the greatest, if you look at the internet industry, I mean, when that first started, and there was all these little companies vying for attention, and we eventually built some enormous behemoths that now are some of the biggest the country and the world has ever seen. They never had any of this. We were as diverse as they came. None of it. Same with video, same with game, same with all the big industries. None of it. Absolutely none of it. You cannot get past the fact, I think, that this is simply a middle-class kumbaya club. I'm sorry, but I think that's where we are. That doesn't detract from the report, which gives us some really good information. So let's keep going, because really grinds my gears, you can imagine. Diversity of thought is missing. Well, if you can have diversity of thought, you can't have inclusion for all, right? Because you can have twits that don't deserve to be heard. That's half the trouble with this. See, there's a sort of moral cultural relativism that goes right through this report that is deeply disturbing. I'm sorry, but it is. Right, we're morally better and culturally better than a lot of people, and companies should say so. Visible diversity is easy to implement, but true diversity of perspective is neglected. Well, diversity of perspective is neglected only in as much as this is our primary goal, which Simon does. He pulls them towards the primary goal, and Matilda here. They pull them towards the primary goal. The primary goal is we must make sure that people go out of this better than when they came in. If you're the NHS, we must make sure that the products we produce, the students, are fit for the world in which they live. Same for the schools, right? From a business perspective, we must ensure that our products serve our customers in the way that they should, and therefore they will buy our products. All of that is absolutely right. And Simon says, pull it back to that, pull us back to our original ideas as a company and an organization. What are we going to do? But what the problem is you don't need EDI to do it, Simon, because we did it for years without. And all this does is cause division. All it does is cause division. It's as simple as that. Get rid of it. You don't need it. Good competency framework, good training. You don't need it. You don't need it. Honest to goodness, it's an added extra that is not needed by anybody. By anybody. And you go, it's the public sector equality duty. It's the Equality Act. No, it isn't. In neither of those does it anywhere say you need to teach it to staff and etc. You don't. It's there as a shield. You need it if something goes wrong. The public sector equality duty talks about equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome. You can't introduce this without introducing equality of outcome. So, right, data and evidence are key. EDI needs real data-driven insights. Does it? Where are you going to get those? Where are you going to get those? We can't even get the data right on detransitioners. Can we? Finding data that's reliable is impossible. So who's going to do that? Well, there's another role the employer must pay for. It's all got to go, Simon and Matilda. I'm sorry, it has. It's only my opinion. You can call me an idiot by all means, far away. So areas for attention they get to next, which is division through a dominant ideology. The popular EDI philosophy, which is based on fixed ideas about identity and social justice, can erode shared bonds, cause division, and foster workplace dissatisfaction. It has done. Right, and it has done to such an extent that workplaces and bosses in workplaces have got to assassinate it publicly and strongly to ensure it never comes back again. It can discourage open discussion, which weakens workplace culture and leads to poor business decisions. That's not true. It simply isn't true. Right? That if you have open discussion, you'll have better business decisions. No, you won't. If you have open discussions, half of them will turn out being something that lengthens the decision needing to be made by months, and the other half will be, right, we got something good out of that. You do not make decisions in business based on equality, diversity, and inclusion. You make decisions based on what is the overall objective of the organization. And again, Simon and Matilda pull us back to that within this report, but still can't let go of the EDI anchor. It's fascinating. To me, EDI often becomes disconnected from business objectives. Here we go. I don't think it is. How can it be connected to business objectives? Right, we're gonna do this, and but we need to have this person and that person and this. No, you don't. Right, we're gonna do this. What is it? Werewolf shaving. Right, who are the best people for werewolf shaving? I've only said that because I got a sign on the wall for werewolf shaving. Not about werewolf shaving, just about werewolves. I'm not a werewolf shaver. So, right, who's best at that? Right, we've got Margaret. There's Barry. Yeah, there's John. Right. Bring them in. And then you've got the other people there going, hang on a minute, we might not know anything about werewolf shaving, but my lived experience, and they recognise that that's a problem, but still they're saying you can do EDI right. You can't. You can't. I put up a table yesterday about what it should be. EDI, if you want to do EDI and you want to call it EDI, then you've got to get past the problems that I highlight with what has become behaviourist education, which is people are nudged to do things, and you're interfering in people's lives. Unconscious bias training. The wrong ingredients. EDI often becomes disconnected from business objectives and it is treated as separate from other activities and structures. Absolutely right, except it isn't. What happened was that EDI didn't become disconnected from business objectives. It was placed as a template over successful businesses, infiltrated businesses like a cancer, and then destroyed what the business was doing. That's what it does. It's not that it's treated separately and disconnected. It's a parasite. Approaches to EDI are often shaped by the loudest voices and not necessarily those whose needs are greatest, with effectiveness also undermined by poor use of data and inexperienced practitioners. It's only as an industry, it's only been around a while. You and I know, Simon, because we fought against disability and discrimination on sexuality for years. But the problem with this is they're often shaped by the louder voices, not those whose needs are greatest. How can you say often? If we'd spent 1% of the rubbish, the money we've spent on the rubbish that is EDI, on ensuring that people with disabilities were able to take a better part in society, then my God, we would have achieved so much, and we haven't done it. We haven't done it. They're too busy flying their flags, which you acknowledge, but yet you still keep the anchor of the EDI. It's not, we don't need EDI. We just need a decent competency framework, a recruitment process that keeps the loons out, right? And a very fast disciplinary process for when we let the loons in. That's what you need. If you're a business, that's what you need, right? If you're the NHS, excellence. That's what you're looking for, competence in medicine, nursing, midwifery. How are you going to do that when you're rattling on about EDI, which, by the way, will have to include trans and gender nonsense? I don't know how you're going to do it. It's got homophobia embedded at its very core. How are you going to do it? Negative outcomes. Performative EDI practices like celebrating days of action and flying flights can distract organisations from making genuine progress. Damn right. While a focus on limited identity categories without considering the needs and rights of all individuals, you can't consider the needs and rights of all individuals. Right? You're a company, you're an organisation, right? Here's what the organisation do. Do you want to come and help us do it? Oh, yeah, I'd love to. Right, okay, well, you start tomorrow. Right, how's your first week been? No, it's been great, but I've noticed that you haven't got unisex toilets. Right, you're fired. You can't do it. You cannot consider the needs and rights of all individuals. You can say, here is the playing field we play on. Does anybody want to be part of the team? And if you don't want to be part of the team where we make widgets and where they shave werewolves and they save people's lives and they filter out idiots so we get excellence from the university system, you cannot consider the needs and rights of all individuals. It's not a club. It isn't where everybody goes around clapping each other on the back. That's not a friendship group. Friendship groups do that. Their family does that. This is the imposition of a toxic parent onto organizations and individuals in a very adult sphere that has been infantilized by the left and the liberals. How's it going to work? Then we've got here the legal risks, which are very heavily mentioned in this report by Simon, which he gets. Targets and quotas often backfire. Broader consideration of diversity is lost, and the problems EDI sets out to solve remain unaddressed. Right, what are the problems? Because I don't know what they are. Everybody's racist. Well, if everybody's racist, why would you work there? And if everybody's racist, how many cases has that company had brought against them, and how many of those cases were won? Interesting, isn't it? The grayer areas. EDI initiatives often focus on identity categories. These can be divisive. Do you think? I know you do. Causing disengagement and exclusion among staff. They're designed to be exclusatory. That's the point. How are you going to highlight your, right, with EDI, we're going to look at EDI. How are you going to highlight where you think EDI is needed without going, it's that group? Right? Now, me, company without EDI of any kind, who's just out there with a competency framework and going, let's get the job done, I can go, here, Barbara, over there. Seen her? Yeah. She's good. Yeah, but she struggles with X. Right, well, let's find a way to help her. Mark over there, how's he doing? He's doing really well, but he could do with some understanding about this. Right, well, let's organise it for him. I can do that without having to tick a box. I can do it without having to report back to an EDI czar. I can do it without having to spend 5% of my damned budget on rubbish. Everything that you say in this report is correct in terms of what we should want to achieve, but you can't let go of the EDI anchor. And you really should. We need to build something more. You really should. See, it says here, while identity-based approaches highlight real issues such as discrimination and barriers to progression, no, it doesn't. It absolutely does not. Whether you've got a barrier to progression and whether you're discriminated against is something that you cannot control and never will be able to. And I can tell you right now that EDI has caused more discrimination than anything in history, because I know employers that just simply, if they see anything or smell that these individuals are part of the identitarian-based class thinking, they won't employ them. They won't employ them. And the Labour Party is about to change the rules on pregnancy and maternity, which most companies don't understand in the first place, which is going to affect women. EDI, my backside. Honest to God, great ideas in here, but get rid of the EDI. You're wasting your time. Wasting your time. So while identity-based approaches highlight real issues such as discrimination and barriers to progression, they risk creating competition between groups and alienating people, particularly when networks or activism become too narrow or misaligned with broader organizational needs. So in other words, there's a group of people up here who aren't doing their job. Fire them! It's not complicated. But you can't, because you have to be inclusive. I don't know how we get past these problems. I don't know. Well, actually, I do. I just want people to pay for it, right? Really. It says here, leaders face challenges in managing contentious issues and balancing activism, with some preferring to... No, they don't. Don't do it. Don't let it be done in the workplace. And if two people go at each other over something like, I don't know, trans or sex or whatever the hell it may be, stick them in a room, tell them they've got 10 minutes to sort it out, you're going to fire them both. It's not complicated. And we have to stop pretending it is. The entire country is not the public sector. This smacks of public sector ideology. I've worked there for 11 years. I can tell you it smacks of it. So, then we go to strengths and opportunities. Integrating EDI. EDI should be the approach to talent that drives business objectives and goals. Absolutely not. This is where the problem comes in. Why on earth would you make that approach to talent that drives business objectives? You aren't going to do that. You're going to go, right, what do I want to do? Shave a werewolf. Right, put out the advert then. Right, if you've shaved a werewolf, EDI's got nothing to do with it. It doesn't need to be there. It's an add-on. It's a parasite. It doesn't need to be there. Centering diverse perspectives. Innovation is supported by productive disagreement. No, generally it's slowed down by disagreement, just so you know. Treating those with different opinions respectfully and fostering a culture that embraces diverse views. Whatever for. Does it help us shave more werewolves? Does it help us create better students? Does it help us create better products? Why would you want to do it? Right? So if you want to create diverse perspectives, it's a very simple thing to do. Use the 10th man clause. That's what most of the organizations I worked in years ago, we used to do that. The 10th man. I was often the 10th man. So whatever it was that they were going to do, they say to me, the 10th man, right, now go and find out why we shouldn't do it. And I would come back and argue the exact opposite of what they want to do. And between those two bookends, we'd find the best way to move forward. And it had nothing to do with equality, diversity, and inclusion because it didn't exist. This is a boondoggle. That's all it is, a money-making scam. That's what I think it is. There you go. Better use of data. EDI success should be measured with actionable data, measuring outcomes and not just inputs. Well, what are you going to measure? Right, without collecting data on people and whether they're black or Chinese or ethnic, and how are you going to do it? Because my mind, we should stop doing that. I'd make it illegal to do it. I genuinely would. You can no longer connect identitarian data because it's not needed. Right, categories need to be sufficiently granular to enable coherent analysis. BAME/LGBTQIA+ miss the different experience of those who fall within them. Well, who does fall within them? Who decides? You? Me? I don't fall within them. I'm certainly not BAME, and I'm certainly not LGBTQIA+ cult. Companies need to move beyond simplistic diversity quotas to deeper analysis of the barriers that prevent real change. Diversity quotas are illegal. Positive discrimination is illegal. And we know they're carrying it out, and they should be sued up the wazoo for doing it. There's where your discrimination lies, driven, strangely enough, by EDI. It isn't savable. Simon, Matilda, it's not. And I know why you want to save it, because it's such a good idea. It's such a good idea. But like every other good idea, particularly communism, it's when you try to put it into practice that you start hurting people, and it's already happened. So our recommendations, link EDI to your organization's activities and goals. No, my recommendation is get it out altogether. If you've got activities and goals, you don't need EDI. You just need people to get together around the goals. Who they are doesn't matter. Never did, nor should it. Right? Create a culture of productive disagreement. Yep. Good. 10th man and all that. Ensure inclusion is not exclusion. No. You need to be exclusive. You need to be asking questions at the interview, at the competency stage, where you're looking for somebody and working out what they've done and what they're likely to do. You need to ask questions that will tell you whether or not they're a social justice warrior. And if they are a social justice warrior, you should not entertain employing them under any circumstances. Because their philosophy is absolutely to the detriment of your organization. They are about disruption. There's a naivety to this report. Make better use of data and evidence. I couldn't agree more. But then you've got to verify it. Who's going to do that? All you're doing is building a democracy. You don't need EDI. Move towards a more constructive model of staff networks. No. There should be no staff networks beyond cake baking, badminton, and werewolf shaving. All right? Check the quality of training. Training, for God's sake, this is not 1980. right? We no longer need to train people because not many people are putting widget A and hole B. What we need now is teaching. What we need now is education. And they're the two dirty words that business don't want to get involved in. If you want to help your staff develop, if you want to make your staff better thinkers, if you want your staff to be able to do their job for you and do so with thoughtful, nuanced approach to getting things done, then you need to offer them education that encourages that. You can't train that into people because that is a discipline in itself. And you can't train a discipline. You have to learn it. Find common purpose. Well, the common purpose is the objective, which to a company is making money. To the NHS is people going out better than when they came in. And to universities and schools and education system is it first and foremost the development of the child socially in the early years, then the filtration into what that child is likely to be able to do. And finally, in universities, the filtration to remove the idiots that are there that shouldn't be. Is it me or is that a common purpose? That's a very simple common purpose. Leaders wanting better EDI may want to consider these questions they ask. Is our EDI linked to our purpose? It better not be, because if you do, you are linking a parasitical belief system into the heart of your organization. Does it help us to find common ground? No, it won't. It will help it to be diverse. It was built for that. It was built for that. That's what it's meant to do. You can't do EDI. EDI needs to be set. If you want to do EDI, you could do it. You could stick your staff on a program of training, whatever it may be. Well, it could be me for that matter. It could be anybody who does it, which is all about them understanding history and sociology and culture and everything else that comes with it, that built this marvelous nation we live in, right? And that give us the things that we've got and the pleasures that we enjoy. But that shouldn't be part of your integral thing in work. It should be something you part fund so the staff can do it. What they think and how they think is none of your damn business. Come in, do your job, get out. How and where are we having and supporting healthy disagreement? What do you want a healthy disagreement about? It's the EDI that's bringing the healthy disagreement. Are you here to do your job? Yeah. You're here to do it well? Great. Fantastic. Good to see you. Good to do it. Martha and Mark are arguing at the water cooler again. What about this time? Oh, race. Right. Get them both in. I've made it quite clear we don't do this here. Is that right? Do you both understand that? Good. All right. Okay. So next time when you don't understand that, you'll both find yourself at the end of a disciplinary. Are we clear? Good. Go do the damn job. That's it. That's it. Everything about EDI is designed to increase the bureaucracy in whichever organization it parasitizes, and there's no saving it. None. Because what you're outlining here in this great report, which I do urge you to read because there's so much to chew over, what you're outlining here is a return to the implementation of competency frameworks that are looking for people who are best at what they do, but you can't let go of the EDI anchor, can you? You can't let go of it. And then it's got, on what evidence are we basing decisions? So is that what you're going to do? Base evidence? Good God Almighty, some of the best decisions I ever saw made had no evidence at all, because sometimes in business you have to take risks. Right? So in business you have to take risks. So here we go. In business you have to take risks, and men are more likely to take risks than women are. So you're going to put a woman in a position which might require risk taking, or you're going to go, hang on a minute, the men are going to be better at that, on average. When it comes to bell curve, on average, the men are going to be better at that. Right, okay, so what are you going to do? Well, I better not take her, she's a woman. Careful, because the data doesn't take you where you think the data takes you. The Nordic paradox taught us that. And again, they've recognized what really is the best data for us to track. And onwards, and look, go read it. It's a great report. But I think it's got a fundamental problem. And the fundamental problem is it thinks EDI can work. I don't think EDI can work. I think it is a parasite. I think Gad Sad's with me on this one. It is a parasite. It is a bureaucratic parasite. It is leftist. It is liberal in the worst sense of the word. It allows people to harvest grievance. It allows them to pretend that they're something they're not, being neurodivergent or I'm this, that, and t'other. It encourages identitarian speak. You're still using the argot of this, or the language thereof, the lexicon of this lunatic cult-like belief system that has been driven by EDI. And that's even before you sit down and start to get to grips with the difficulty of what you're going to do with a bloke in a dress practicing his fetish in the workplace, or a teacher practicing his fetish in front of children, or a bloke in a university making life difficult for the students who happen to understand that what these men are with their fetish, wandering around campus looking like, some weird sort of version of Barbara Cartland. You've got it all in there. It's all in that report. Go and have a look. But I tell you now, I don't think it's doable. And I think that's the problem. This doesn't take us forward. What it does is it tries to find a middle ground with something there is no middle ground with. There is no middle ground. We eradicate this. It is damaging our businesses. It is damaging our organizations. It is damaging our education. It has to be eradicated. Let's get back to basics. Competency frameworks, good recruitment processes. Can you do the job? Do the job or don't. Thank you very much. Here's your money. And at that point, I think it's probably best if we leave it. There's plenty for you to read and engage with. I do hope that you will, and I hope that you'll let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. Please do take time to read it and to visit Simon's website and also Matilda's and Simon's Twitter and find out what about what they're saying. What have they opened up here and what conversations can take place? So it's great to speak with you. Thank you very much. I'm sorry it was such a long one, and that's just the first couple of pages. It is a really meaty report and well worth a look. So thank you to both of them. Thank you, Simon, and thank you, Matilda. Other than that, I'll say goodbye, and you have a great day. Thank you very much.